Right, good afternoon people. We're back on with the W210. For the next phase of the tuning, obviously, we are going to be putting some more air to all that extra fuel that we gave it. So what I've done is I've laid some components out for you again to keep it nice and concise and you can get an understanding of the costs. So what we've got is, on the big item on the list is a hybrid. So this, on the front, as you can see, it says V3 prototype. This is a prototype turbo, so it has similar size wheels to our V2 hybrid, but it has a thicker shaft, so we're going to be able to push harder on this. Now, the finished product's not going to look like this, so it's quite confusing. You can see there are all kinds of confusing things going on there. So don't worry too much about how that appears. And that rear housing is going to be the correct fitment for a 606. As you can see, it's got the triangular flange and it also has the original Mormon clamp on the back. Right, so that's the turbo. The hybrid is going to be the same price, thereabouts, as the current example, which is $1,095. Hoping to keep it within the same realm. Obviously, we're just trying this out, so it's a good opportunity for me to try out this new version. But imagine the hybrid turbo is going to cost you $1,095. Right, next up, a triangular gasket made of the finest exhaust grade copper, and that is going to cost you £8.25. And that's a pretty fancy little thing. Thick piece of copper, and you can reuse it, which is nice. Could anneal it even if you wanted to. You can kneel on it, stand on it, anything you want. Then we've got the genuine Mercedes exhaust gasket, multi-layer steel. Don't use any of that fabric compressed nonsense, composite gasket rubbish. These are the business, £20.33. And then we've got a bolt and Nord lock kit. So I always remove the studs, the original studs, from the manifolds. I'm not a fan of them, and I replace them with a set of Nord lock washers which prevent the manifold ever from becoming loose unintentionally, and I copper grease all my bolts. They don't need a Loctite or anything. These things hold in. They're very, very, very good. So bolt Nord lock set, and that's £25, and the majority of that cost is the Nord locks. The Nord locks are very expensive. The bolts are obviously, they're not anything particularly fancy. And then moving across here is a ceramic coated stock manifold. So this is £245, and that is basically a stock manifold from us. It has this section at the end welded, but apart from that, it's fundamentally stock, apart from it's ceramic coated. You guys don't necessarily need that. You could just put a stock manifold on, it'll work fine. But this is my car, so I'm going to put on one of these. I use these for my engine builds, so it's something that I keep in stock. Okay, so those are the bits that we're going to put on today. We're going to see what kind of power this thing can make. But first of all, we need to go over to the mechanical department and see what we've already got done. Right then, so let's have a look at the bits that we've taken off. So far we've removed the manifold, the original one, the stock turbo, the gasket obviously, and the clamps. Now, something I noticed when I actually took this stock manifold off, the blank that I'd fitted to this for the previous dyno runs was actually all bent and not sealing correctly on here. So the previous dyno results are probably not correct. Well, they were correct as to how it was running, but I think that we will have been losing a fair bit of power. Now, if I were to re-dyno this, and with all the stock stuff, and fix that alone, I think people would have gone, oh, you've manipulated the results to say it's higher. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to say, all right, it should make more power than it did in my video, if you actually have the manifold sealed. However, that's one of the main reasons I'm fitting that other manifold, is because that is welded. So we've taken the studs, the original studs, out of the head. As you can see, they've come out as a, well, some of them came out all in one piece with the nut on them, and some of them came off with the nut, and we used the stud extractor. This is actually a really, really nice example. If I get my torch out so you can have a look down there, but look how clean the paint on the block is. It's not flaking or anything. Now this is possibly a genuine mileage Mercedes. I know that is hard to believe, but I think this car actually is the mileage that it says on the clock, 120,000. By the look of that block, I would certainly say so. Everything else is in really good nick. And as I showed in the last video, it had the stock water pump on there. So I think it is a 120,000 mile vehicle. Head surface is all cleaned up, which is really good. So what we're going to do now is fit the manifold, the hybrid, get this thing put back together and pop it on the dyno. See what happens. So the turbo is finally fitted. It was actually relatively straightforward. Obviously this new hybrid is quite a bit larger in body size than the old one, but fits in with no clearance issues, which is really exciting. The pipe that comes up from the intercooler, as you can see, fits on, but what I did have to do is I took a piece of pipe like this and I shoved it in to the turbo up pipe and just tweaked it sort of forward and out a little, just to make it fit. But apart from that, it was bang on. And then original turbo feed pipe fits onto it directly, and then the custom return hose is on it, but that's all done. So that took probably, I don't know, an hour, something like that. It wasn't a bad job. And now I'm about to put the airbox on. So this is where I might have to do a little bit of custom work for this trial unit. This has a larger inlet than our normal hybrid. So I'm gonna have to do a modified pipe to go onto the airbox. So I'm gonna do that now, and then we're gonna dyno it. Hooray! I'm excited about the dyno. Don't forget to block your vacuum line with a bolt or something similar. Turn it round. We're on the road test now, and a few people mentioned the firm gear shifts. Well, I can quite confidently say that this is as smooth as silk. Yes, there were really hard gear shifts on the dyno for whatever reason, but I did have the ABS light on the dyno, so I think that could have been a wheel speed issue. But on the road, it is as smooth as silk. Obviously now we've got the big pump on. Sorry, we've got the big pump on. I'm tired. We've got the big turbo on, and what we're doing now is warming that engine temperature up so we can find out what the 0 to 60 is going to be. Because you might remember the 0 to 60 of this car in my E-Class comparisons video. So I wonder what the 0 to 60 is going to be now with this new hybrid turbo and big pump. We're going to do a few 0 to 60 runs, and then we're going to put it on the dyno and see what we've gained. I hope we've gained a lot. But I tell you what, this thing is smooth. It's
smooth as silk, and also it doesn't nail
There's
at
no
all.
smoke
Like
out the back. Look out the back as we're cruising. I can accelerate a little bit. Look, no smoke. I mean, yeah, if I floor it, you're going to get a bit. You get a little bit, but it's not much, is it?
No, it's got some proper welly as well.
Yeah. Right then, let's give this brand new turbo what for.
Go on.
It's just instant. Oh, it's done it. If you shoot the rev limiter, because it's got standard valve springs and such a small turbo trying to make a lot of boost, Here we come. That cylinder's come back. We're back. The cylinder's come back to life. Don't worry, we're good. Oh, God. Right, let's try again. Right, engine's back to life. Let's give it some. Should we go from here or shall I roll it forward?
I rolled forward a touch. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
What's about there?
Yeah. Just cock on.
I don't think flat down. I think 3/4.
I think you have to do 3/4 because it's just got too much grunt.
Right, here we go. That's 3/4. Right, flat
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Was it a 7.2 again?
7.2.
Again?
I tell you what,
That's not a lot
considering...
faster. We did spin again though, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, considering not giving it the gun off the line.
I can't, that 60 foot is terrible. It's just spinning and spinning and spinning.
This is good.
Hello, right, it's dyno time for the new hybrid turbo. We've been on the road test, it's quite exciting. I'm not going to guess the figure, let's see what happens.
We're at the end of quite a long day and we've come to a conclusion. It's definitely fast. So what I've done is I've documented 4, I don't know if you can see that on camera, 4 sets of results here. Stock car, a stage 2 only, so just an ECU upgrade, a stage 2 plus our previous hybrid, and then a 7.7, this new style hybrid, and stock ECU. Does that all make sense? Now, the common thing amongst all these 4 vehicles, they all use the stock exhaust system. They're all in 210s, and they all have stock intercoolers, stock airboxes. So as far as the car goes, pretty original, fairly minor mods. Now, the problem that we've been having, obviously, we've got quite a big pump on here, and we've got quite a large turbo now. Even though it's a hybrid, this V3 is big. And we're hitting a exhaust manifold pressure limit. And the stock exhaust system, I think, is really compounding that issue. Because when this engine is hot, it's not really doing it. But when it's cold, as soon as we hit high revs, you're getting that bit of a backfire, that bit of a drrr, like the exhaust manifold pressure's going too high, which is to be experienced. So I think that a bigger exhaust on this is going to make a huge difference. So, right, let's just talk about the results then. So what we ended up getting in the end was 264 horsepower at the engine. And obviously, you remember stock, we were getting 169, I think, 168, 169. And then we've gone obviously to 264. So we've gained 100 horse at this stage, which is quite magnificent, isn't it? Like, it's a big gain when you consider that it only had 170 and we've gone to that. It's fantastic. I'm really happy about it. The difference in the way this thing drives now as well is, yeah, it's mega. And you literally pedal it like low speeds or 0 from the lights. You hit the pedal and the tyres spin, like straight away. It's not like a lag monster. You're not waiting and then it goes. It's like, instant wheel spin. So I love the setup. It's amazing. We're still getting a little bit of smoke right at the top of the rev range, because you can see, even with this big hybrid, you can see we're starting to, the peak power is actually being made here, like at under 4,000 revs, which is, hang on, sorry, I'm talking absolute rubbish. The peak power, sorry, this is the peak power. brain in gear first. It's been a long day. Peak power is, yeah, it's here. It's about at 4,000 revs. Well, it even says there, like fucking, if I just looked at my own dyno chart, it tells me where the peak power is. 4,000 revs, which is quite low. You know, when you tune one of these 606s up to big power, you know, they go on and on and on. They always do make good power at 4,000, but yeah. So that's really good. Engine torque, 360 pounds-feet. And you can see on these other ones, respectively, as it goes down. So the stock setup, totally stock, I think was 0.7 bar of pressure, 163 horsepower, 229 pounds-feet at 2,700. So torque peak was low. Stage 2 only, so just the stage 2 ECU, everything else stock, turbo stock, everything stock. 190 horsepower at flywheel, 216 pounds-foot. So the torque was down a little, but I think that was because that was taken from a different car, so maybe we had a slightly more block cat, blah, blah, blah. Stage 2 plus the hybrid, max effort. Now, this was a really good setup. That, I believe, yes, had a stock boost sensor, and that was making 1.7 bar on the hybrid, 240 horsepower, 292 pounds-feet. And again, the maximum power was at 4,000 on that stage 2 max effort tune on a 6mm pump in the hybrid. So what we gained going up to the bigger pump mainly is we gained torque, so we were making our torque peak slightly lower. We also gained some horsepower, but also we're on the stock ECU, so this thing is still on the stock ECU, which is insane. And another thing that I have to mention, which is really important, on the last video, on the first video, you saw that this thing was shifting really hard on the dyno, and it did it again today, shift really hard. But on the road, as soon as that ABS light goes off, it's as smooth as silk. Really, really nice to drive. So don't be worried about that. That was fine. I would say that we had a little bit of third, fourth gear flare at low throttle positions, but at wide open throttle, no problem at all. Gripped every single gear, no problem whatsoever. So I'm really happy. And the great thing is, even with this big pump, big turbo, we're not going into any kind of limp mode or anything like that. No engine management lights, no issues whatsoever. So it's nice in that respect. For the next step, I am tempted to go up with the boost sensor to take it up to a 4-bar boost sensor, because I'm still getting a bit of smoke at the top end. I'd like to clear that up, and it desperately needs an exhaust system. That stock cat is obviously still in there, the same as all these had a stock cat in them, and I'm getting high exhaust back pressure issues, and I'm also getting quite a lot of restriction at the top end. So I think that I can gain some by putting our 3-inch exhaust system on. That's an exciting next step. But it's nice that you've got to see what each step does. You know, it's a very interesting thing. And it's interesting to see that this new hybrid is making some more power than the previous hybrid. We've still got some work to do before we can release it, but it's exciting first steps. Right, I hope that everyone's enjoyed that. Do I think there's anything else to say? There is one more thing to say. This car here, on the third line here, belonged to a chap called James, and it was a really low mileage estate. I think I made some videos all about it. I did. The video on YouTube that's titled 40% Gains with the ECU, and it shows me with an ECU. That video was this car, right? I did multiple dyno runs on that car with the max effort tune and the hybrid turbo. Really, really good, no issues whatsoever. Took it out for loads of test drives. One of the test drives I took it on, I got the boost clip scenario where the turbo makes more boost than the standard boost sensor can deal with, and that shuts the ECU down because it doesn't want to see 5-volt feed. But it did it once. I thought maybe it's an anomaly. Anyway, the chap took the car. I think he enjoyed it. Well, he did enjoy it, told me he enjoyed it. He then had the exhaust upgraded on that third line, had that exhaust upgraded. And the day he had the exhaust upgraded, it constantly kept hitting that boost clip limit. So as soon as he had a freer flowing exhaust system, I think that it was allowing the engine to breathe better and in turn make more boost pressure and just try and basically make more boost, which the ECU, the stock sensor and the ECU that was mapped couldn't deal with. Anyway, we ended up giving him an upgraded boost sensor, selling him an upgraded boost sensor, whatever we did, and that cured the issue. Fantastic. But that is interesting, isn't it? To say that that car was not a problem with the stock catting, and then suddenly free-flowing exhaust, and then he was having boost issues. I bet that made quite a bit more power. But we didn't get to dyno it, unfortunately, with the free-flowing exhaust. But we are going to with this. So we'll see. And it'll also be interesting to see if this thing hits a boost limit when we do an exhaust. But saying that, we've already got a bigger boost sensor. Anyway, I digress. But there we go. So we've gained 100 horsepower by this point, and we've gained 100 pounds-feet. So yeah, exciting stuff. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. We are going to do more. Stay tuned. Guys, before we go, there is something that I did want to mention. So one of the guys in the comments mentioned that the RPM was different in a couple of the runs. And yeah, it was right. Something happened with the dyno and the figure, the can't remember what the name of it is, the calibration figure was incorrect. And it made the wheel speed and the RPM incorrect. And we did set it up initially, set it up all right, it was fine, and then something must have happened. I don't know what happened, but anyway, the RPM changed, and I'm not trying to hide that, I'm not trying to fiddle results, and I am going to show you. So what I did is, I did 2 runs. This, you can see the time, look. So the time was 6:34 and then 6:42. I realised at 6:34, hang on a minute, why is the dyno run ending at 4,200 RPM? That's odd. That's very odd. When all my other equipment's telling me that we're doing more. So we did recalibrated the settings, and yes, there was a problem. The factor was incorrect. So you can see here, that was what we had initially, and then that's what we should have had, 49. Anyway, so we recorrected the factor, and then this is much more normal. And you can see these 2 runs are both the same power, they're both the same setup, and you can even see the shape of the curve is identical. It's just drawn out, so and the boost is the same. It's just pulled out, so you can see that nothing's been manipulated. It was a mistake. But also look at the power figures. Look at the same. So well, thereabouts the same. 258.9, 260.6, wheel power 231.6 and 233. It's the engine torque that's different, and of course it would be, because the video that I released just yesterday, or whenever you get to see this, explains about this, doesn't it? It tells us what the torque is versus the RPM. So when it did its calculation, because obviously this does it the other way around, it worked out the torque to be higher than it was with the lower revs. So yes, really sorry about that. The torque figure of this first video that we made will have been higher. The figures of the engine and wheel power, they will have been right. So don't worry about that. They will have been right. The dyno is calculating, it's reading the power that it sees. That's fine. It's the engine torque that will have been wrong. Everything else will have been right. So yeah, and all the other little ones that I've just shown you on the piece of paper, they were all done at the right RPM. They were different cars done at different times, or the same car done at a different time. It was just that last video and that last dyno run. So yeah, thought I'd add that on the end because it's important, and I don't want you to think I'm manipulating figures when it really was a mistake. I probably shouldn't be doing this stuff at this time after working all day, but it's a busy business and got to keep you customers happy. Right, I hope that all made sense. Bye again. See you later.